Hi, this is the Marshall mg2fx, part of the Marshall MG range. The mg2fx is a 2-watt combo containing 10 different modes and built-in digital effects and a built-in tuner. Now, everything you want is within this box, and the best thing is the whole thing runs on batteries as well as mains power, so now you can take your Marshall tone with you wherever you want. What we're going to do is look across the top panel of this, and I'm going to show you all the features, all the different sounds, and in a little while start to look at how the effects work. So looking at the top panel, going from left to right after the guitar input, firstly this is your mode control. There's 10 different modes, 10 different sounds within this amp, and they're selected from here, and each one comes up on the LCD display just there as you scroll through, and I'll talk more as to how they work in a minute. Next up, you've got your gain control next to that. Then you've got your effects control, your modulation effects consisting of chorus, phaser and flanger. And then next to that you've got your volume control. Now the cool thing about how this amp works, it also has secondary effects. So going back over these controls again, the secondary effects are accessed by holding down this button here. It's called the tap or shift button. We're using it as a shift. It also acts as the tap tempo for the delay, which we'll get onto in a little while. But by holding down that button and then going back through the same dials, you'll see in the non-bold kind of writing just here, this now acts also as your bass, your treble, your reverb and your delay. So you've got all these features built into this amp, and because of these secondary controls you have a lot more control and variation on them. Alright, so let's start looking at some sounds. The way that the modes are divided up, first you've got a clean sound, and then you've got 3 different crunch sounds, 3 different overdrive 1 sounds and 3 different overdrive 2 sounds. So when it's on 0, when it indicated on here that you're on 0, which is basically turning it all the way anti-clockwise, you get a good old clean sound. Now what I'm going to do now is move it round to number 1, so just by turning it slowly we're now on number 1, and this is the first of the crunch sounds. And what happens is, as you go through each of the sounds, it changes the contour, it changes like where the mids are at. So each one in each bracket for the numbers 1 to 3, it will start sort of quite scooped out, but by the time you get to number 3 you'll hear that there's more in the mids. So rather than going through every single sound in here, I'll show you the sort of what I feel are the most important ones to be showing you. So number 1 on the crunch. Moving it up to number 3 now, you'll hear how much more is in the mids with that kind of similar sound. Now moving on to the overdrive 1 sounds, firstly on number 4 you've got again a more scooped out but higher gain sound. And then moving up through number 5 and up to number 6, you'll hear it's a similar sound, but we're more in the mids, which is good for more sort of traditional sounds. And then on to overdrive 2, which contains the most sort of amounts of gain. Number 7 is scooped out, good for more metal stuff and higher gain solos and stuff. And then up to number 9, it's a similar thing with more going on in the mids and again more traditional. So that's a very, very brief look at the 10 different sounds within there. If you want to sort of hear them all together, then I'll give this a go. So that gives you an idea, and you can hear as I'm scrolling through that each, you know, the frequencies are different in each one kind of thing, you know. All right, so on to onto the next thing. So we've got the gain control just there. So any of those sounds that you just heard, you can control the gain. So if we went back to, let's say number 1, but we want it to be more of a crunch, not so much going on in terms of overdrive. So we bring the gain down. So you can, for every single mode that you've just heard, you can adjust, the amounts of gain in there as well. So if you want to really fine tune your sounds, then you can. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is firstly the modulation effects. So as I said earlier, this consists of chorus, phaser and flanger. And if you're familiar with the Marshall MG range, you'll know that there's a contoured line on each one, and the further clockwise that you turn each one, the more intense each effects get. So to go through the effects, firstly starting on the chorus. What I was doing there while I was playing was just turn that up slightly. You might have heard that the chorus became a bit more intense. And what I'll do is show you that on the phaser. So starting on the first gradient line, first part of the gradient line on the phaser, you'll hear that the effect is quite slow. But by turning it up now, you'll hear it speed up. So you can have any of that. You can set it to wherever you want to choose the right speed for the phaser for you. As with the flanger, starting off quite slow. You can hear now the wave has got much quicker. So that's a quick look at the modulation effects. Obviously those effects work across all the different sounds, so if you want a great big overdrive sound with a phaser or something, perhaps we'll look at that in a little while. The last main control here is your volume, which determines your overall volume. So obviously for any of the sounds you're on, you can adjust the sound just there. What we're going to do now is start to look at these secondary controls and how they work. As I said earlier, by holding down the shift button just here, this is how you access them. This works for your bass and your treble, your reverb and your delay effect as well. So if I wanted to change the amount of bass, all I simply do is hold down this button here and then start to move the first control, which has bass written next to it, and you'll see that just there is actually a B control, saying that that's the bass, B for bass obviously, to tell me that I'm controlling that. Even if I set the bass all the way up to say 3/4 and then come off, it won't affect the primary function. So if you're on the clean sound, or if you were on the clean sound, wherever you were, it'll remember where you were, and it'll also remember whereabouts you set the bass, although the pot won't move, kind of thing. Same thing with the treble. If you wanted to adjust the treble, you hold down the shift control and start moving that one. You'll see there's a T there for treble, so you can determine how much treble you want in there. And also for the reverb control. I'm going to start turning on the reverb now, so if I just hold down that, I want to turn the reverb, there's a little R there for reverb, turn the reverb up to 3/4. You can hear all the reverb that's in there. If you didn't want quite so much, you hold the shift button down and bring it down a bit. And now there's not quite so much in there. Now the last one is the delay. So you hold down the button to determine how much delay mix you want in there, and there should be a D on the end, as there is. And this is actually your effects mix for the delay. So that will bring in how much delay is brought in with the signal of the guitar. If you want to change the speed of the delay, however, it's as easy as just tapping the tap or shift button that we've been using on there. So if you wanted quick delays, you just tap it a couple of times quickly and you'll see the light will correspond and change. If you want to slow it down, and you can have that speed delay as well. So you can determine any speed delay that you want along with your EQ section and which effects. You can obviously mix in the delay and reverb along with your modulation effects. So let's say we wanted to keep the delay where it was. We've already set the reverb, but we now want a heavier mode. Let's take it up to number 9. Now we've got all that sound going on in there as well, but we want to add some phaser in there too. So we set our phaser to where we want it. So it's a really, really versatile bit of kit. It's great for if you want to be playing while you're on the move, if you go busking, or if you want to just go, round a friend's house and take it with you or something like that. It's incredibly portable. The best thing of all is that this thing has a built-in tuner. Once again, with the button that we've been using, the tap or shift button, if you hold this down, you'll see in the LCD display, there'll be a little line come up in the middle. Now what's happened is that's muted the amp, and that's brought in the tuner. And the tuner is activated by using that same button. So when you play a string, firstly it will come up on the display as to which string it is, and you want it to be down here, right there on the money in the middle. If you go flat, it will drop down to the flat mark here, telling you that you need to tune back up to get it bang on. And that obviously works for all the strings, and also tells you which string you're tuning. So that's it. It also comes with a carry handle up here, so you can take it with you or put a guitar strap on it instead and sling it over your shoulder if you want to go play like that. That's the Marshall mg2fx. On the rear panel of the Marshall mg2fx, firstly you've got your headphone output. Next up you've got your line in for use with MP3 players or CD players. You can run it into the amp. Next up you've got your power switch and your 9-volt DC. There's also a battery compartment underneath concealed with a door. For more information on this amp and others in the brand new Marshall MG range, please contact your local Marshall dealer.